Right, welcome Jiajun to the Future Leaders program of DLD or the Development Leadership Dialogue. At DLD, we try to bring together future and current leaders of the developing nations, mainly from different sectors of the development community, if you like. So government, academia, private sector, international organizations, civil society, and this is basically to talk to each other, understand each other, and try to come up with a more pragmatic and strategic way of challenging difficult development problems. So this week, we are discussing the role of development banks and economic transformation and climate transition. You are one of the world's leading experts on development banking. You are from China, based in Peking University. I mean, few people outside China know this, but the China Development Bank is bigger than the World Bank and all the other regional development banks put together, and it has played a very, very important role in the economic transformation of China in the last few decades. Can you tell us exactly what role it has played, and what are the lessons that other countries might draw from this?
Well, thank you, Ha-Joon, for inviting me to contribute to the Future Leaders program. And this week, I really enjoyed this very enlightening discussion and open-minded debate with young promising professionals with very rich country experience. And I would like to start by congratulating on your initiative to kickstart the Development Leaders Dialogue at SOAS. We know that nowadays we are actually confronting unprecedented global challenges, such as intensifying geopolitical rivalry, accelerating population aging, alarming climate change, and spreading pandemics, and stagnating economic transformation. And tackling these challenges really requires us to think out of the box, to stand up to orthodox, and to strive for alternative strategies which are implementable and enforceable.
That's right.
So I believe that under your leadership, this Development Leaders Dialogue is well positioned to cultivate this young generation of global leaders, equipped with alternative strategy and thinking, and are committed to turning these unprecedented challenges into opportunities.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that.
And in the beginning, you asked a very important question. That is the role of China Development Bank, CDB, in fostering economic transformation in China. And since its inception in 1994, CDB has played a pivotal role in providing large-scale, long-term, and high-risk capital to speeding up the pace of China's industrialization and urbanization process. And before I join on China's experience for other European countries, I would like to make 3 points about CDB's role in economic transformation. The first one is about a why question. Why the Chinese government established CDB in the first place? If we trace back to the early 1990s, when the Chinese government decided to establish CDB, at that time, China was a fast-growing low-income country and a latecomer in a global economy. And since China's opening up and reform in the late 1970s, China is aspiring to the rapid economic transformation in the 1990s. But the large-scale and long-term and high-risk capital was in short supply.
That's right.
So at that time, the China's capital market were very shallow at the nascent stage. And China has 4 state-owned commercial banks. At that time, it's actually known as 4 state-owned professional banks, which undertook both policy lending and commercial banking business. This actually led to the moral hazard problem. They basically asked government for subsidy to compensate for their losses. They accumulated very high non-performing loans. To address these problems, the Chinese government decided to establish specialized public-driven banks So the three policy banks were born at that time, and in order to provide the much needed long-term capital to accelerate the process of economic transformation. So this kind of the why question to set the scene. And then I would
And
like
at the right timing, I would say.
at the right timing and to ignite and accelerate the process of economic transformation in China. And now China has become the second largest economy in the world. And the CDB has grown from about 11 billion USD its total asset in 1994 to now it's about 2.6 trillion USD. It's on a par with JP Morgan. It's because of its contribution to the Chinese economic transformation. And then I would like to move to the second point about what are the comparative advantage of CDB in playing such a pivotal role. I think that at least there are four comparative advantages. The first one is that CDB proactively pursue public policy objectives. It's in its official mandate, rather than maximizing profit as commercial banks do. And secondly, instead of taking household deposit, CDB rely on the sovereign credit worthiness to issue bonds on the capital market, which enables them to provide long-term loans on its asset side. And thirdly, CDB is known as export bank, so they are endowed with many industry expertise within the bank, which enables them to undertake the uncertainties during the industrial upgrading. And the last but not the least, they are kind of public entrepreneurs. They can take risk, and they are better cope with uncertainties than private sectors. So these are the kind of business model that enable CDB to play a pivotal role on the path of China's economic transformation.
So what lessons can other countries draw from this? I mean, does it mean that they should all start establishing development banks or what?
I think the key lesson that other developing countries can draw from CDB's case is to establish a well-functioning national development banks, which can act as a public entrepreneur. It has three core characteristics. The first one is a long-term and comprehensive vision, which is very important. Economic transformation takes generations to achieve it. And the second key feature is to act on a very decisive scale, even in the presence of uncertainty and risks. We see the CDB has made many pilot investment to incubate the market, to venture into the blue sea. And when they incubate the market to the maturity, they would exit and ask the market players to play the full role. So this is a second key feature. And the third key feature is to adopt a learning by doing strategies, by making coordination among stakeholders and to fostering bottom-up initiatives and to make them to flourish and to scale up. So we see CDB, when they do project in China, instead of making individual project financing on a piecemeal scale, CDB is actually working together with local and central government to make the planning first. And they take a bundled approach to make coordinated investment and also to innovate its financial instrument and business models in order to tackle the challenges that they may not face before.
No. Thank you for boiling this down to very, very clear and the sophisticated points. And I'm sure the people who watch this will begin to think about development banking in a quite different way from what they're used to. Now, you have written about the role of development banks in making the climate transition. What would you say are the particular strengths of development banks in helping us deal with the consequences of climate change, both in terms of adaptation and also in terms of energy transition and other changes?
Yeah, so it goes without saying that it is imperative to achieve the clean energy transformation. That is a rapid and swift deployment of clean energy within a very short period of time. And if we want to achieve the goal of the Paris Agreement on climate change to keep the global temperature increase within 2 degrees Celsius, but the businesses Euro scenario predict a very modest growth in the renewable energy. And the conventional approach tend to focus on the project level, try how to make an individual renewable energy project bankable. Although this approach has merit, but it is limited in understanding the systematic challenges that the country are facing in scale up the renewable energy investment. There are at least 4 systematic challenges. The first one is policy uncertainties. When it comes to the policy in support of renewable energy, which is further exacerbated by the so-called incompetent entrenchment of fossil fuels. So government provides subsidy to fossil fuels, which actually set barriers for the entrance of renewable energies. So this kind of the first key challenge. And the second key challenge is a weak production capacity of the European country to produce renewable energy technology. Even though African countries are very rich in solar power, but they actually have not turned into the potential into the renewable energy deployment. And the third challenge, it's actually about how if they are the country, they have very high energy demand. But if they make a premature transition to renewable energy, this may undermine the international competitiveness of their industries, especially when renewable energy supply are unstable, when the prices are higher. And last but not least, if there's a lack of supporting infrastructure like transmission line or distribution line or storage technology, this would also make the large-scale deployment of renewable energy infeasible. So these are the kind of systematic challenges that we have to overcome in order to accelerate the clean energy transformation. And based on my research in collaboration with Professor Kevin Gallagher from Boston University, we propose that public-driven banks are well positioned to tackle these challenges. Number one, they can adopt a mission-driven vision. They can say, if we want to achieve renewable energy supply, by 30, this kind of target, we can turn this target into milestones, into the roadmap. So this is very important. We have to overcome the status quo inertia. And secondly, they can act as incubators of renewable energy, especially the nascent one, to provide R&D and in order to make this technology mature. And thirdly, they can provide long-term finance to scale up renewable energy investment in order to achieve the technological breakthrough, to bring the price down, and also to make the supply of renewable energy more stable. And last but not least, they can also act as a honest broker to mitigate the policy uncertainties and also to overcome the incompetent entrenchment of fossil fuels. And finally, they can also financing supporting infrastructure like transmission lines with positive externalities.
Thank you. Excellent points. Last but not least, you have been leading this project to build what is really the first global database on the development financial institutions. I think it's an excellent the initiative, and you are doing a great service to the world by that. But can you tell us in a bit more detail why you started this initiative and what you plan to or hope to achieve with it?
Yeah, so in practice, especially after the recent global financial crisis, which erupted in 2008, the public-driven banks are experiencing a renaissance worldwide.
That's right.
At the international level, we see China and other emerging economies establishing Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and BRICS New Development Bank. At the national level, it's very interesting to see both developed country and developing country have recently established national development banks to tackle economic, environmental, and social challenges. But in theory, the role of public banks has been dismissed by the mainstream neoliberal thinking, and if we take a free market approach, they would argue that public-driven banks are owned by the government. They are literally the state intervention in financial system, which would lead to resource misallocation, and they are doomed to fail because they suffer from political capture and poor corporate governance. And they even take a step further, said it's the good governance of public-driven banks is very difficult to combine in a weak institutional environment. So, but this kind of mainstream perspective run contrary to the realities. I see at least three puzzles I feel very intriguing. The first one is that driven banks are not dying out. We see they are prevalent worldwide, both in history and at present. And secondly, not all publicly owned banks failed in the past. We do see successful examples, including Korean banks in your home country that helped to lift Korea from low-income country status into high-income country. And thirdly, we also find that even in some poorly governed countries, the government still have the willingness to tie their hands to establishing NDB, national driven banks, with sufficient level of political autonomy, professional autonomy. So this intriguing puzzle just encouraged me wanted to delve deeper into this field. But when I tried to do so, I found there's no data available.
That's right.
Even nobody has identified a list of public banks worldwide. So a major reason behind the positive research is the lack of data. And that's why I decided to initiate this first global database on publicly owned banks. And the first question we need to answer is the what question. What define publicly owned banks? And we turn them into qualification criteria and to identify publicly owned banks worldwide. And
that's right. There are development banks that are not called development banks, that are
exactly.
Banks that are not called supposed to be development banks, but performing the same function, and
Exactly. Therefore, we should have come up with very objective qualification criteria, go beyond the self-claim of the bank by themselves, and our team has identified 530 plus public banks.
I was shocked when I saw it was the data from the early days. So the number that I've seen might have increased since then, but I was shocked to see that there are so many.
And especially they are very pivotal to the financial system. The aggregate total asset of these public banks combined adds up to 23 trillion. USD, and we estimate they contribute to 10% of world investment. So they are not some marginal financial institution at the periphery. They actually has great potential in providing long-term finance to achieve SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and therefore this kind of the motivation behind this building of the database is to collect the first-hand data, to foster original research, and in order to unleash the full potential of public banks. And so after I initiated this database, and on the research front, in order to encourage more researchers to use the original data to conduct research, I decided to make this database as open source database to make it publicly available to researchers. And I also initiated the global research network on publicly owned banks and just try to bring researchers all across the world and to work together and to forge partnership and to do collaborative research on this important topic. And on the policy front, I'm very glad to see that this database helped to contribute to the building of the coalition of publicly owned banks worldwide. So under the leadership of International Finance Club, there is a Finance in Common Summit, which was initiated in 2020, and which bring 500 plus different banks worldwide together, and in order to see what are the key challenges they are facing, and how they can improve their institutional design in order to unleash their potential. So this global research network on PDB is an important research pillar of this Finance in Common Summit. So we can make a bridge between academia and practitioners.
Yeah, this is an incredible initiative. Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us that really very deep and interesting points about development banks, and yeah, thank you for joining us at the workshop. And yeah, let's hope that we continue to work together to make the world slightly better.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Ha-Joon.